Okay, and we're back.
We're
In case
back.
you in case you missed it, we're here with Champagne Grave. She's a women's marketing expert. She helps us communicate to the psychology of women. And we were talking about emails before. Champagne was telling us about how she does these like beautiful formatted emails. And my big takeaway from that was how she leaves audio messages inside the emails, which I think is brilliant because that's part of the reason I have a podcast, is because a voice in your head is quite different than text on a page. Did you want to expand on that, or did you want to move on?
No, I can totally expand on that. One of the things that you were talking about is that most people have your short, sweet, and to the point kind of email. And I my emails read like a landing page, in that I do have that short, sweet, to the point kind of thing for the people who do want it. However, when I am looking to make sure that I'm accommodating everyone, I will present the emails in different ways. For example, for people that are visual learners, I will give them a video. For people who are kind of reading on the go, I'll give them audible style. And so, more than anything, storytelling is something that is very important to my subscribers. And I think that everyone should be using storytelling and using the medium that they feel like gets them the furthest. For example, your podcast. I have seen people who are podcasters who will insert an audio clip into their emails, and so that people can listen from there. But, kind of just how you do everything in little bites of content. I really find that to be super helpful for emails.
I am 100% going to start doing that from now on. By the way, thank you.
Good.
It
Good.
seems
You
like a
should.
no brainer. It seems like a really obvious thing to do. Um, all right, so we talked about like how you do direct email to get people out of the play. How would you approach there are major revenue drivers and major decision trees, like well understood decision trees, like reviews. You talked about social proof a little bit. You want to expand about that as far as how that impacts the female psychology?
Yes. So specifically when it comes to women, videos, when it comes to social proof, are everything, because they need to see who that woman is. They need to hear her voice. They need to be able to see her cadence. And so I think if anyone can manage to get a video review over a written review, that is gold. And it is something that not only I see adhering or making women consumers convert more, I also see that in males as well, because yes, I do focus on women. However, I've sold to a man or two. And so one thing that I know is that when it comes to that social proof, it is best when people can see and hear from that person.
That's really interesting. There are a ton of tools available for that, but I mean, for bars and restaurants, from a search discovery standpoint, it's like typically like people are like they're looking on their maps, like what am I supposed to do? Like number one is obviously word of mouth, and you're saying that word of
Mhm.
mouth is generated over a longer period of time for women than it is for men, but
Absolutely.
they're more emphatic with their recommendations if they have fully bought in.
Absolutely.
How does
And
this connect with storytelling, and how does a bar owner start communicating that story more effectively?
one of the things that I especially see work well in hospitality and food and beverage is to highlight the stories of the customers. So get those regulars in front of the camera. I love to hear the story, especially of an original concept restaurant. I love to hear the story of the chef, as well as what their journey was looking like to get to where they're at. The restaurants that I love the most, I have shaken the hand of the chef. There's that community aspect that is happening that's so important. It sounds a little cliche, but the only time in the workplace where I think it is important to be treated like family and have a family atmosphere is in restaurants and bars, because when that happens, especially for women customers, they feel like it's a lifestyle that they're building around it, right? For example, I have my favorite brunch place. We build a lifestyle around it. I'm a part of a country club. We've built a lifestyle around the restaurants and bars inside of the club. And so and not only is it my lifestyle, it's my husband's lifestyle. Whenever I want to go out with friends or go to a lunch or something like that, I'm going to the club, I'm going to the restaurants that I usually go to. And not only are have they become my favorite restaurants, they've become my friends' favorite restaurants as well, which is it's really cool too for me as a consumer, as a person reviewing, because it kind of confirms that yes, this is as great of a concept, this is as great of quality as I think it is, and it's great to have that confirmation.
Okay, how would you characterize the conversation that's happening in a guest's mind and when they're deciding to on a new place? Like this is like setting aside word of mouth. They're like, I'm around, I'm looking for a place to go. What how does that decision process work?
A lot of that is based off of the popularity concept. So, if you see a long line, most people are going to follow what the locals are doing. I think that when we're talking about new concepts, if it can be tied to a familiar concept, then I believe that that restaurant or bar will go a lot further, which is why I see concept restaurants that are built upon a more established restaurants do a lot better than, a restaurant that was just built by someone who's new, hasn't necessarily been in the market or anything like that. However, if that person is new, they don't have any kind of roots or anything like that, then that's the opportunity for the owners, the stakeholders to endear themselves to that community. I think it should start with community. So wherever you're building, you need to have a stakehold in that community, whether it's on a political level or it's on a financial level where you're investing, you're going out and shaking hands. I live in a place where every single restaurant is an original concept. And I know the names, the faces. I've met all of the owners of the restaurants, and all of them started off as new concepts. And the way that they were able to stay in business here in our neighborhood is by getting to know the people in the neighborhood. So if you have a community stake, I think any restaurant like that will go far because the community will fight for them. Like, I will go to a restaurant that I'm not necessarily feeling right now just to keep them in business because I want them to stay in my neighborhood and I don't want a chain restaurant coming in.
It sounds like you live in a very special place because like the national average is like 67% failure rate over a year and then like 80% over a 5-year horizon. It's not it's a ruthless and brutal business for most people unless you're like a chain or you have a very supportive community like apparently you do have, which is great. Um, maybe I should move there. Is that Dallas in general or is
It's a
that
great place.
I hear it is wonderful. Um, so
No, yeah, so it's Bishop Arts and it's great. It's great.
okay, well that's going to be what's the what's the worst that could happen if you just started to just specifically market to women for your business?
Nothing. Because women are the people that are deciding the restaurants to go to anyways. I am very interested in looking at things like Yelp reviews and things like that. And what I see is that even when I'm looking at Yelp reviews, the people that are willing to include that picture, the people that are willing to talk about the overall experience to truly expand and say something a little bit more than I really like the chicken fried steak is a woman. If someone's going to review the community events that they have, if someone's going to touch on the aspects outside of the price and the quality, it's going to be a woman. And so we haven't necessarily been highlighted or just specifically focused on, but we've always been here leading the charge with consumerism. And so a lot of people have asked me, don't you feel bad that you're cutting off 50% of the market? Don't you feel like you're missing out on something? No, not really. Because women, we are leading the charge with consumerism, especially conscious consumerism. Just like I said, I'll go to a restaurant that I'm not feeling just to keep them in the neighborhood. However, I don't believe that men have that kind of emotional stakehold when it comes to restaurants and bars, specifically original concepts.
Can you do you have any stats on hand that you can they can use to that you can share to support that?
Yes. Yeah. So, when it comes to women in their everyday household purchases, about 78.2% of that is happening from women and women alone. So, when it comes to purchasing decisions, women are the primary ones that are making like those little decisions here and there. So, when we're thinking about your fast casual restaurants, we're thinking about, just like your regular grab and go things, women are primarily making those decisions. When we think about your more upper crust restaurants and things like that, that's when the opinions of others come into play. And then another thing is that that number is only rising. It's projected that by 2028, about 89% of those purchases will be made by the decision making of the woman in the household alone. And then we also think about the intersections of women and their lifestyles now. More women are buying houses, living child free, childless, living unmarried. And so they don't necessarily need even the approval or the validation of a man, because a man may not even be in the household to help her make that decision. And so I feel very strongly that women are who should be focused on, because no offense to men, but I think that you've got, people have already got a really great formula when it comes to selling to men. They care about price, they care about convenience. And I love that men are so easy like that when it comes to sales pipelines. But I think I'm of the belief that the whole foundation of marketing, the whole sales pipelines, all of that is happening because of the decision making process of women and how long it takes for something like that to happen. But it's needed because we're making most of the purchasing decisions on an everyday level.
I'm totally convinced. I mean, I look at the reviews of my clients every single day, and I see them coming in, and it's mostly women. I don't have a specific thing about that. But somebody was telling me about. Do you work with CPG as well? CPG and services, or mostly bigger companies, mostly corporations?
Mostly bigger companies, just because they've already established themselves. And so I come in mostly on a secondary level. So these are companies that have already either worked with large primary market research firms, or they have their own kind of consumer affairs department. And these companies are going through some kind of turmoil, PR crisis, something like that. And so specifically right now, I'm very busy, for some reason. But
Well,
but like,
it's good to know
yeah,
what you're
so
talking
they're
about.
and so, like whether it's social, political, economic kind of crisis going on, or in all of those are kind of intersecting right now. I'm helping these companies to figure out what exactly do these women want right now? How do they want you to respond? Sometimes they do want you to be silent. Sometimes they do want you to speak up. Sometimes it's different, but always having that continuous feedback loop is so so important, especially during times like these, because most of what I've seen happen when it comes to the survival of these companies, it is all happening by word of mouth. I specifically seen it happen within the first 90 days since November of last year, in which there was a huge consumer shift from price and convenience to, value driven. So for example, there was a Walmart to Target to Costco hop, and all of that happened via word of. So the women that were like, I'm done with Walmart, I'm gonna go ahead and make the leap to Target. They've already been doing the things. Everyone signed up for the Target Circle program. Everyone, including myself. And then after everything happened with Target, then people started signing up for the Costco program. And all of those conversations were led by women. Women telling people, hey, Target Circle program so great because of X, Y, and Z. You get XYZ percentage off, you get XYZ deals. You get Starbucks delivered with your pickup orders. I had no idea that these things existed, but the evangelists of Target, which were mostly women, were coming out telling those stories, coming out and letting those things be known. When the shift happened to Costco, again, there were no commercials. I've never seen a Costco commercial in my life, but it was all word of mouth that was happening. It was all the women consumers that were telling the stories. Specifically, I heard the story about the CEO and him going into a board meeting saying he'll kick the ass of anyone who tries to change the price of the $1.50 hot dog special. That's a great, great story that gets people really invested. And so I thought that that was so interesting that within that 90 days, there was so much movement happening, and it was all word of mouth.
Hmm. And all word of mouth of women on anonymous or sub internet like Reddits and Discord servers. Very interesting.
Correct.
What with your clients? What are the indicators that you look for, and how do you collect and how do you get them? Like, how do you get the data that informs your advice?
Yeah, so because I come in a secondary fashion, I'm looking at the market research that they have already collected, and I'm
Is it
also
historic?
looking.
Is it historically reliable for you?
No, no. Well, the thing is that I feel like I have to grab at multiple things in order to get a full picture. So when I am looking at the research, I'm looking at it from my framework. And when I'm traditionally looking at market research, the only thing that they cover is demographics. And it's very like age, gender, maybe race, maybe like education level,
Home
income level, but
ownership.
it's only
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and even within the survey design, there's not a lot of questions that pull at what is emotionally tying you to this brand, right? There's not a lot of questions that pull out what's your lifestyle around this, because we should be trying to build lifestyles around bars, restaurants, things like that. There were days and times when people were loyal to just a specific brand of hotels, for example, right? And within that, they knew why they were there. They knew why they chose to continuously go with these hotels. However, as time has gone on, the benefits have scaled back, and the consumers, women consumers specifically, they are reacting. And it's not just the convenience being gone, it's not just the prices going up, it's not just the values being thrown out the window. It's a combination of all of that. And that is not being addressed. And it can't really be addressed with the way that research is collected currently.
Hmm. All right. If you had a couple minutes to sit down with a restaurant owner, and they were looking to scale, how would you apply the WCR4 framework to help them get from point A to point B?
Yes, so I would start by doing something like a secret shopping. So not only am I looking for the sales techniques, the great upsellers, things like that, because when I do find those people, they're the people that are going to be moving to the new concept. They're the people that are going to be managing the new concept. I always feel like, or like they're going to people the be the people helping with scale. I feel like anybody that has been really with the company for a long time has a great handle on how to upsell, great handle on creating their own sales process and techniques. Those need to obviously be the people that are training the new people on the ground. And so from there, I'm also looking at the regulars, right? I'm talking to the regulars and I'm saying, hey, if this new concept is, let's say, 20 plus miles away from the current one, if what do you have anything in that area that you could do? Is there work there? Are there family friends there? Things like how would they feel about it? Do they feel like the quality would go down at the current location if they were to scale? All of these things need to be addressed before you scale for scaling's sake. And so, if you have a strong community with the first concept, then that community is actually willing to travel. They're willing to that second concept in order to help get that business going. And if they're not traveling and they know someone in the area, they're willing to tell people about. Seen it happen with concepts in my own neighborhood that have, opened up two or three others in neighboring neighborhoods that were 20 plus miles away. If I'm traveling to Plano, for example, for the people who are in Texas oriented, they know, and I'm here in Dallas, that's about 20, 35 miles. I'm stopping at my favorite restaurant that has a chain over there because I already know the quality that they're producing. So again, it goes right back to that community. It goes right back to those people becoming evangelists for you, because that word of mouth will precede you way more than any marketing campaign, any sales pipeline, any kind of Marcom system ever will.
Hmm. All right. Thank you so much for your time. Is there anything you want to leave us with? How do we find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on my website, Champagne Graves, or LinkedIn. That is my main jam. And I love, love, love talking about this stuff. I'm such a nerd. And more specifically, my inbox is always open. And so please hop on LinkedIn, message me there, connect with me. Let's talk, and let's see what we can build together.
All right. Thank you so much, Champagne, for these like very clear, actionable steps to improve your communication with women. This has been the Hospitality Strategy Lab. If you haven't yet tried, got your free accelerator. It's a 14-day free trial on my software. I'd love to see you there as well. Champagne Graves, thank you so much for coming on the Hospitality Strategy Lab, and I will see you soon.
Thank you, Jason.
And that's